Welcome, Travis. Number six, Travis
Thank
Ramsey.
you.
Walk us through the next level of mental fitness. So,
Okay.
thanks for coming back, my friend. Thanks for all this great work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here, whether you're listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube later or recording, or whether you're here live now. Today, we're going to break these things down into a little bit smaller bites here. So we're going to go over 5 methods or 5 tips for cultivating mental fitness. Semi-related and a little bit different. As always, if you're here live with us, I'd love for you to pop on, ask questions, engage with it. You think it's great, cool, let's hear it. You think, no, that's not helpful for me at all. That's not the way my life works. Great, let's hear that too. And let's talk through that. I think that's part of this process. There isn't any one path. And we're really talking about how do we live life. And I don't think there's anyone that can tell you how to live your life. I think people can share what's worked for them, what they've found. And I think that's what this is about. And I think we're all better together by sharing all of the things that we know and learn and our perspectives, and ultimately honoring it's a path that we all have to find ourselves. I'd love to take a moment to reflect today on what it is that you are working on in your life, on this adventure of your life, maybe on this journey towards mental fitness. What are the things you're currently tackling? What are the things that you're confronting in life? How are you doing on that? What's working for you? What's not working for you? Where could you engage differently? And I think bringing this into just as a project you might work on in the company, you have checkups. You have regular intervals of like, okay, let's do a review. What have we done that's working? What's not working? I would say the same thing in your own life. And I think that's part of what these monthly check-ins are about, of like, okay, yeah, let's take a minute to pause and reflect on my last month. Are my priorities that I say in life the thing that I spent the most time on in this month? Or did it go and disappear into some black hole of something I really don't care about that's not important to me? When we're talking about mental fitness, we're really talking about on our slide here, we say a deeply rooted tree isn't bothered by the storm, right? And life will have storms that come in and out. And how do we like deepen our roots into ourselves, into the things that into the things that are most important to us in life? Life is really short. We don't get, we may get a full life or we may not. And so I think taking this time to reflect on it is powerful and important to see if we are living the life that we actually want. There's a great quote here. I think that will be powerful. There are only 2 mistakes on the road to self-mastery: not starting and not going all the way. And I think the question of self-mastery, of what does this mean by self-mastery? And I think there's a correlation with mental fitness in there. When we talk about physical fitness, what are we really talking about? And I think we're talking about the ability to move through, navigate my environment, and have the freedom to do physically what I want with my own body and in my own environment. And I think mental fitness is the same thing, to be able to navigate my own landscape, to weather the storms, to navigate the ups and downs of life, and to be able to move and shift it in a direction that I want to move and shift it in, not feeling stuck in anxiety or fear or depression or behaviors or addictions in life that I don't really want to do, that I feel more captive to, but to feel freedom and control in living the life that you choose to live, that you would like to live. And so I think the 2 mistakes on the road to self-mastery here is not starting. I think that's a lot of us here, and not going all the way. And what does all the way mean? Are we ever going to reach that? No, probably not. I think that what that means is keep going, right? Keep going. Okay, here's our first 4 tips. Tip number 1, stop doing what you don't want. I think another way to talk about this would or another phrase that might stick in your mind as well would be never do something that you would resent. And that is really tricky and difficult, and it might laugh and never do something you don't want, and everybody's here at work, right? maybe you wake up and you love to go to work, or maybe you wake up this morning, and if you're like some of us, I'm sure there's some of us that way, you're like, I don't want to go to work today, right? I'm doing that. And I think it's taking a moment to confront that. Like, do you truly not want to? And if you don't want to, then why are you doing this thing? And if it's because you feel like you have to, that's where I would stop and challenge this. I don't have to. Like, is this truly what is not doing this thing truly what I want to do? Maybe I don't really feel in the moment like doing this, but I value my reputation as a team player. I value my team and the people that I'm with, and I don't want to leave them behind. Or I value my customers or my clients or my word and my person, my own self and my own reputation, to do this thing that I don't want to do because I said I would do it. And to take a moment to confront that of, is it true that you don't want to do it? Or are you genuinely making this choice in it? And really, this is about owning 100% of your actions 100% of the time. Don't want to do it, don't do it. Oh, you like being there for other people, you like doing those things, you like maybe if it's even you like getting paid and getting, being able to provide food for your family, right? Then this is a choice that you're making. Only you can choose what you want for your life. And I think it's really honoring that we have absolute freedom how to live our lives. And I think sometimes when we choose not to do this, or when we choose to do it, but then kind of resent it, be frustrated about it, it builds in us. Maybe it's a favor that somebody asked that you didn't really want to do it, but out of obligation, you're like, okay, fine, I'll help you do the thing or whatever it is. But then you're secretly holding some resentment in there, or there's strings attached. All right, I'll do the thing, but then you're going to have to pay me back later or do this thing for me later. But we don't speak that. We just make this assumption. And then this resentment starts to build. We feel the company owes me, or this other person owes me, but there are all these like unspoken contracts that nothing was agreed to. And I would say have the courage to say no, or do it freely, knowing it's 100% in your choice and it's a gift that you are giving, or an action that you are choosing to take because you are choosing to take it. I think the giving let's just say service, it's I don't know, maybe your kids want to do something with you and you're tired at night and you don't want to really do it, but you're like, or your spouse or your partner or something like that. You're, okay, fine, we'll do it. But then you're resenting it. And to me, it's like making a meal, but putting poison in it, right? I'm doing the thing, but I'm going to hold it against you. Or maybe it's myself. I'm going to do this thing because I'm afraid of the consequences, but then I'm going to resent myself for being weak and not being able to say no. Or I'm going to resent myself or the world or the company or whatever it is that we choose to place this blame on as who is responsible for our actions. And I think that's kind of what's at the heart of this, is who is responsible for our actions. And resentment is saying that somebody else is responsible. I'll do it, but it's your fault. I do it, but you owe me. I'll do it, but it's really, I'm only doing it because I have to. And I would say, stop for a minute. Don't do that. If that is the cost of doing it, I would say, don't do it. And that is where never do something you don't want. And I might also phrase it, never do something that you would resent. And I would say, check in with your body. Like, listen to your body. Like, your body knows. Are you doing something? You're like, ugh, there's this thing in your stomach when you're doing it. Or are you doing it and be like, yeah, it's not really the thing that I would love to do right now, but it's the thing that I am choosing to do because I want to do this. And so listen into your body, and like I would almost say, like, settle the waters before you do it. Mike gave us a great example in this, like the head, heart, gut thing. Like that is part of the checking in with that, right? This is, can I do it with full 100% conviction, compassion, confidence? Can I settle the waters before I do it? And if I can't, then I would say don't.
Yeah, if you're checking in with my head, heart, gut got me a long ways there, and giving myself permission not to do things that that I truly didn't want to do, right? That I was doing, like you said, I was doing it for somebody else. And I was, and once I check in with my head, heart, and gut, I know if they line up, then sure, I'm 100% in. And if they don't, then I gotta, like you said, stop and think about it and make sure you're doing it because you choose to do it, not for some other thing.
Right. Right.
Powerful. Giving yourself permission to do that. That was my main thing. Once I realized that I was not giving myself permission to, make my own choices and have my own time. I had all these other obligations I was trying to fit in, and that was big for me.
Right. I think we can, we can feel like a prisoner in our own life. Like we're not control, we're along the ride. Everybody else, if everybody else would just stop doing this, then I could have, and it's reversing that and realizing I'm the only one that has absolute control and freedom in my life.
Yeah. And responsibility, right? With great
Right.
freedom comes great responsibility.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
have to choose, right?
Right. I think a great way to sum it up is take ownership of your life, whereas there is no one else who can live it for you. Embrace the power within to shape your destiny, accept responsibility for your actions, and let go of blame. In this realization lies the freedom to create the life you truly desire. Okay, here's number 1. Number 2, change your body and change your state. When we look at the things that we do that we don't like so much, or we maybe wish that we didn't, it's oftentimes to shift ourselves out of a state that we are feeling stuck in. And in talking about making changes in our level of mental fitness, there's a few different ways. There's the top down, I think we've talked about this before, or the bottom up. And it's basically change my thinking, and then when I change my thinking, I change my actions. Or there's the other way around, change my actions, and as my actions change, my thinking changes as well. And they're both true. They're both powerful ways to move. And so when we're in a state of mind that we find ourselves in that we don't want to be, I would say change your body to change your state of mind. And I'm going to give you a few different examples of how to do that. I would say alcohol is definitely one of these that I've heard in some of the conversations, or most of the little habits that we have that we would maybe say they're not the best habit, but it's what I have, right? It's coming home from work and I can't shut off my brain, and so I drink some alcohol, or I go out with friends and I can't relax because I'm doing this. So I'm using an external substance or external object to change my internal state. And it's really not about that external thing. It's about changing the internal state. And so we're going to talk about ways of, okay, when you're feeling in that stuckness, how do you change that state? And it could be depression, could be sadness, it could be anxiety, it could be feeling stressed and not able to relax. It could be stuck on ruminating something. It could be stuck in fear. Another example might be cell phones. Every time I feel uncomfortable, I go to my cell phone, or I'm finding I'm wanting to do this big accomplishment thing, but I come home and I just find myself sitting watching TV instead. It's state changes through internal state changes through external means. And I think a lot of times we use these external means because we feel stuck and I can't control it. I can't I know this thinking isn't good for me, but I can't stop this thinking that I know that isn't good for me in here. And so my tip here is to change your body, and I'll give you a number of ways to do that. A few examples. I'm going to start with your breath, actually. So changing your breath to change your state of mind. And if you remember back a few lessons or a few of the podcasts earlier, we talked about the emotional states and the range of physiological functions that are tied to your emotional state, and what your breath, what your heart rate was doing in those different times. And you can't necessarily make yourself stop being worried or not being angry or not be anxious, but you can change your breath to mimic a pattern that feels like calmness or steadiness. And so I would say to change your state of mind, change your breath pattern. And most of the time, it's going to be slow it down. Slow down your breathing. A really simple tool or method would be 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, or 5 seconds in, 7 seconds out. You can even have a pause in between on there. And the breath is our access or our gateway to the subconscious, or the things that we don't have control over. So if you look in your nervous system, like I can move my muscles, right? There's a lot of things in my body that I have conscious control over. I can think about it and then do it. But something like stop worrying about this project that's due tomorrow, or this thing that I have to do, or whatever it is. That's not so easy. You can't, it's harder to let go of that, or don't worry about what other people think about you, or whatever it is for you in here. Those things are more kind of in the part of our nervous system that we don't have conscious control over. But breath is so powerful because it lives in both domains. Like before we started talking about breathing here, nobody was thinking about breathing, and we were all breathing. Like our body was breathing for us. But we can also think about breathing and choose to take control over it. The two different parts of the nervous system are the autonomic and the somatic. You can think like the automatic parts of your nervous system, or the parts of my nervous system I have control over. And so I don't have control over my physiology, my heart rate, my tension in my body, different things, but I do have control over my breath. And so most of the breath patterns are for the states of mind that people will generally want to get out of, are going to be fast, choppy breath patterns. And by slowing your breath pattern down, and while we're talking, you could even do it. You can just count to 5 as you breathe in, count to 5 to 7 as you breathe out. Just slow down your breath. You might notice your body starts to shift. Your brain starts to shift, your thoughts start to shift. And so we can't make ourselves be calm, but we can breathe as if we were in a state of calmness or peaceness or relaxation. And then our brain will follow our body in that situation. It's also something to kind of interrupt a pattern, to switch into a different action. Instead of this thing happens and my brain runs like several steps down before I even have it, just interrupting the pattern and doing something different and focusing on something different will create a state change in there as well. Another tip for if you find yourself in a state of mind that you don't want to be, we'll just say that that's what it is. Change your viewpoint, change your vantage. I might say take a step back, like literally or metaphorically in this. I might say actually, and we're in the topic of body, like literally, like take a step back, like leave the room, leave the house, move, change your environment. We talked, I think, a little bit about brain states of, there's a fish that they studied that it's got like eyes on the side of its head, and its brain, and I think it's called the cuttlefish. its brain when its eyes are out here versus when it focuses its eyes out here. And you can think of it like as a hunter in the woods, right? It's somebody that's just taking it all in, being in the forest, hearing the river, hearing the birds, seeing the sun, like absorbing it all, taking it all in is in a relaxed state of mind, versus when its eyeballs go forward, it zooms in on its target or whatever it's moving at, and it's more in a hunter chasing mode. And that is more of our high intensity, stressed, focused state. It's a beautiful state, but it's also a state that can get in trouble because we miss everything. When we're zoomed in on the deer or the elk that we're chasing down and we lose it or it gets away, we're missing all of the others that are around us. And so we can get stuck or locked on the thing that we missed, and the thing that we think we're going after when we miss all of these things around us. And so it's change your perspective of, oh, it got away, or this thing got away. It's like, oh, well, hold on. There's a million others around here for me. And I'm so hyper focused on this one thing that I missed the big picture. And so literally, metaphorically, take a step back, changes your brain state, changes your visual input, changes your mental state that you are in. The next one, get out of your head and into your body. A lot of the thoughts are running, so this might be go move, go for a walk, do something physically. Noticing your breath could be getting into your body. This could be going and using a heavy bag for a while. Whatever it is that taps you into your physical body is powerful and important. When you find yourself in a mental state that you don't like, that you want to switch out of, mantras or mental cues to change your thinking is really powerful as well. I think I have up here in an airborne school, you can imagine it's actually really dangerous when you get into that panic mode, because if you jump out of an airplane and you have a small critical window to do something and your brain is screaming at you, I'm going to die over and over again, like you have to zoom that back in and be able to focus pretty quick. So being able to do a fast mental state change is important. And going through airborne school, everything is little songs and ditties, and it's kind of weird. Like at first you got there and I'm like, what the heck? Like, why is everybody singing these little ditty songs? And you can think about almost like sailors like singing as they work and things like that. And it's powerful because they stick in your mind. So, a mantra, something that you might create for yourself of when you get stuck into a mental pattern, being able to pull that and kind of call that back up and just say it, stick with it, do it. For me, in one of my schools that I went through, like I had this, I think the panic button, right? Like have a plan for when you get into that state, be like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say this one thing and I'm going to remember this one thing in here. And so you can create that one thing, or you might have a rock in your pocket that tells you what to do, that reminds you of something. That might be one of the other things in here, but have some sort of way to interrupt the pattern in any way that works for you. And almost the more silly and the more stupid, the better, because then you'll pull this thing out, you'll read this silly, stupid thing, you'll laugh about how dumb it is that you're repeating this yourself, and then you're in an instant state change and you're in a completely different place. The last tip on here to how to change your state when you find yourself in a place that you don't want to be, embrace it, lean into it, laugh, cry, go hit a pillow, do whatever it is you do. And instead of fighting it, be like, okay, I'm going to allow it. And I'm going to create a window or a container that it's safe to just allow myself to fall apart. It might be, all right, I've got to get this stuff done, but I'm feeling super stressed. And so I'm going to set a clock for 3 minutes. I'm going to allow myself to completely fall apart for 3 minutes. And feel whatever I need to feel, or cry or laugh or whatever it is. I'm going to allow it, and then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to move it on. And so instead of fighting this wave, you can just allow it and allow it to move through. And I think the last thing in here, and maybe the most powerful and deep, and that we will dive into a little bit more on one of the other topics later, is realizing that you're not your mental state. You're not your emotions, you're not your feelings, you're not your thoughts. You are something separate from it. and that you can simply sit back and notice it and allow it and watch it. And I'd say there's a difference between noticing that you are feeling anger and being angry. Being angry is you thinking you are your mental state and getting sucked up into it and it's control you, versus taking this step back internally and noticing, oh, right, I'm feeling really anxious right now. I'm feeling like I'm feeling really uncomfortable. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling whatever it is for you, and realizing that that's okay and that's a feeling and that's all right. And it doesn't have to be something that is overwhelming or overtaking you. Those are some ways that if you find yourself in a mental state, how to shift it without the use of external things that you may not like. Instead of being uncomfortable at the family dinner table, everybody reaching for cell phones. Right? Or instead of automatically getting home at night and needing to relax, reaching for alcohol, maybe something else. Number 3. This is for when you are confronting challenge. And the title of this one is The Obstacle is the Way. So this is when you are confronting challenges in your life, when you are feeling overwhelmed, when you are feeling discouraged, when you are feeling why me? Why this again? Why this problem again? Why this challenge? This challenge is too big. I'm tired of dealing with this, whatever happens to be. And it's remembering to take joy in the growth that the challenge will bring you. It's a bit of changing your perspective of realizing, instead of, I think an example I have in here is the weightlifter complaining about the weights being heavy, right? It'd be kind of silly, right? It's like you can focus on the discomfort of the situation, or you can focus on the growth that is going to occur as a result of you overcoming this situation. And I would even say even more, it's not just about overcoming, it's about like the person you become along the way to figure out how to overcome. And I think we talked about, like, this is a deep thing in all of our mythologies and stories of confronting monsters and dragons, and it's our hero's tale and it's our hero's myth. And the whole point of the journey is not to just have the dragon go away or the monster go away, but it's about the process or the journey that happens along the way in which this hero becomes a person capable of defeating a dragon. And so when you are confronting challenges or monsters, whatever that is metaphorically for you in your life, I think to take a moment to step back and be like, this isn't an obstacle or a challenge in my way that's stopping me from getting to the thing that I would like to get to. This is the thing that is going to transform me into the person and take me to the place that I'm trying to get to. Seeing it as the path instead of the thing that's in my way, blocking my path. I think going back to our weightlifter for a second, you can, most people, let's see, that are engaged with fitness are enjoying the process. And it's interesting because it's like the physical suffering that happens is genuine suffering, but they actually feel joy in the process of it. And you can think of, I don't know, something that you enjoy giving or doing. Maybe you love cooking Christmas dinner for everybody, or you are building a project, or man, maybe it's mowing the lawn and doing yard work and clearing the leaves out of the gutter. And it's not the funnest task, but you really take pride in doing it. You really enjoy you almost enjoy the process because the outcome is so powerful and beautiful to you. And it's this gift that you're giving and doing for other people that it no longer becomes suffering. And I think that's the opportunity that you, when you are confronting these things, you can, there is a place where you can start to take deeper and deeper joy in challenges in your life, when you start to see them not as challenges, but as opportunities to grow. And the suffering in our life that we experience is internal. It is meaning that we have created. And I think I might have talked in the last one about like in the military, like the worst things you could do, the punishments that you could do for a person. And if I don't know, some bomb was about, something's going to happen and we have to hand out shovels and dig this, bunker to save all these people, probably everybody would grab shovels and start like digging willingly. Versus if someone, handed you a shovel and said, go dig a hole and then fill it with rocks and then bury it back in with like no purpose or no meaning, you would be probably rightfully so not so happy about doing the task and probably cursing the person that gave you the task because why am I doing this and it's stupid. And when you can find meaning in that task, the suffering goes away. And so I think some of the opportunity is like making your own meaning. What challenges are in your life? What are the things that you are confronting in your life? And what outcomes can those bring you to? How are these opportunities that are showing up to teach you how to be, or another way that you can be, or to expand beyond what you are currently capable of? I think there's this really interesting principle that things don't get easier, we get bigger or better, right? And every challenge that we face is an opportunity to expand ourselves into something bigger. And I think that really here is the definition of what it means to transcend something. It's the difference between trying to make some sort of suffering go away versus transcending it, which is rising above it, finding your own deep and powerful meaning into it where it no longer is suffering.
I've found this in something we call unique ability.
Yeah.
Which is something I learned from Strategic Coach. And when I started doing a inventory of my unique abilities and trying to spend as much time as possible in those, you find these things, to your point, that maybe they're below your pay grade, but you love doing them. You should keep doing those things, right? So you shouldn't stop doing those things, even if you think, well, I shouldn't mow the lawn anymore because I'm getting paid too much or whatever. If you like doing that, keep doing it. And then your other point, if you're talking about unique abilities, which I talk about a lot, that doesn't mean there's not going to be things in there that are hard or that you want to add to your unique abilities, that you have to go be uncomfortable and look dumb while you're doing them. And it's hard to get enough hours to master that new thing. But it ties back to you're choosing that, right? You're choosing that you're going to do that and you want to do that and you want to add that to your unique abilities. And you're constantly choosing what you remove from what you want to be doing.
Right.
I think your other point is something that, I classify as your mission and your vision, right? So if you've got a mission to do something and you have to do something really hard to be able to take that hill, then it's great, right? It's very gratifying. You've got a reason, and as long as it all fits your values. So there's some values in there, but I when I'm talking about unique abilities, it's all about your choice of what you do and what you don't do, and then the mission that you're on personally and professionally, you would be at you perpetually. For me, I'm going to perpetually add things, capabilities, talents, move on, not to stay bored, right? Rather than retire, I'm just going to keep adding to and changing and doing new things. So that's powerful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Those were great things you added. Yeah, I feel a lot of the unique ability in the don't do things you don't want. Right. If it's really not right with you, then it's like choosing the life that you want.
And do it, you should, the start of this, and there's a book that you can get on Amazon called Unique Ability 2.0 that'll walk you through the whole process. But the powerful piece in that is you start listing all the things that are in your unique ability that you love doing, and all the things that are you're not a unique ability and you hate doing them. And the point is, do less of those things,
Right.
try to get rid of those things. You're still going to have a few. So you're not going to get I'm 90% of the way there. And that's really good. Most people only get 50%. 90 is really good. So there's still 10% of things that are not my unique abilities that I do. But the more you can get in that unique ability side, the happier you're going to be, the more productive you're going to be. That's the point of it. And
Right.
and you have to constantly check in on that, right? Because you change as you do that, you change, right? And the conditions change constantly. Once a year, check in on the inventory, and once you've done it once, it's really easy to do it again and start delegating. And then the other thing to watch out for is, I see people, including myself in the past, you kind of start talking about those things that aren't your unique ability, as they're dumb, and human beings shouldn't have to do that. That's a mistake. That's a trap. They're not dumb. They need to be done by somebody. And those things that aren't in your unique ability and that you hate doing are in somebody else's unique ability and they love doing them. So the point is that needs done. It's important. Find somebody that loves to do that. That works, right? And surprisingly, I've been able to find amazing people that were happy to take those things off of my plate that I was no good at, because I was no good at it, and it was driving them crazy, but I was still trying to do it.
That's great. The other part I heard you say was the deep mission. Like when you have a deep mission to go take the hill, then it's not suffering. Like it's as opposed to just said, oh, see that big tall hill? Like, yeah, go run up and down that 10 times, like for no reason, right? But when you have that deep mission to go do it, it's a powerful experience, as opposed to just focusing on the discomfort of taking the hill, because probably the act of taking the hill is going to be painful. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be sacrifice. It's going to be difficult. But the deep mission underneath it transforms, or I would say helps you transcend the actual experience of it because it's part of something greater that's more powerful to you.
Yeah. I do a lot of hard things, nothing harder than public speaking. And the bigger the audience, the harder it is. And this is a very common reason I bring it up, is it's a very common fear of people's, is to speak in groups bigger than 7, right?
Right.
And then when you get on a big stage and you're being videoed, it's compounded. So
Right.
I use the going back to the breath you were talking about, and what you think about, right? So what you're thinking about, loving kindness is an easy thing to think about whenever you're going into it. It really gets your mind in the right place to speak publicly. It's still nerve-wracking, and interestingly enough, everybody I talk to that does it, even people that do it for a living every week, are still very nervous right before they get on stage, especially if something's being recorded with 1,000 people in the audience.
Right.
I use all of these. That's the one place that I have to. I mean, when I'm getting ready to go on stage, I have to breathe, right? I got to slow down my breath. I've got to think about things that are fun. Loving kindness is the go-to for me to get my mind in the right spot, and then it works. And powerful stuff. And that the mission, why do I do that, right? Why do you get up on stage when it's very nerve-wracking? Because I can have a lot bigger impact on the human race and on innovating energy and on LNH and doing my job if I'm publicly speaking. And if it's being recorded and broadcast, then it's even a bigger impact. So it's something that I choose to do, and I choose to be good at, because it has far-reaching impact. And I just want to get good at it, right? I want to continue to get good at it. So I think that's good enough too. And it also I would say it also doesn't have to be hard. Some of the things I add to my my wanted on my unique ability and I want to get really good at it are just fun things that
Mm,
that's fine too. It doesn't have to be something huge that's business related or public speaking. It can be very simple. The simple ones are actually more beautiful, I think.
mm. I think you said something that I caught on to. I think that's really powerful. You said even sometimes I do things that are challenging just because they're challenging.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it even doesn't have to have a why or some deep thing. The deep
Yep.
thing is to hone myself in such a way that I can take on a challenge, even if it has no meaning except for expanding myself by taking on a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
Interestingly enough, one of my challenges that I need to get good at is to say no more, right?
Mm,
To
mm,
say no to more things. So, and Stacy and I were just talking about this. So we have so many opportunities coming at us. We have to get a lot better at saying no because they're all exciting. So you want to
right.
say yes to them all, and
Mhm,
that is not possible.
right.
So yeah, that's even a challenge is what to say no to. Probably the biggest challenge that I have today is what to say no to.
Yeah. I think there's the level that you're at the moment of these are all good things. And I want to say yes to all of them, but I have to be selective because I only have so much time. And then I think there's another level or another area of that spectrum of the saying no to things that I should say no to that I don't actually really want to, right? And I
Yes.
think when we stop to examine that one, it's some sort of fear of acceptance or rejection in that. And like, okay, if I'm doing this thing that I don't want to be doing, what is it that I'm continuing to do it for?
Yeah.
And examining when we are saying yes when we really should be saying no. Uh, the resentment part is like, okay, I'm going to say yes, but then I'm going to make it your fault that I said yes, right? As opposed to the complete ownership of like, okay, I'm choosing to say yes. Why would I choose to say yes? Right. Okay, because I don't want to be this. And it's like, okay, well, then this is my choice of why I'm saying yes. And it's not the other person, I'm owning it. Or it's getting to the deeper of like, oh, yeah, because it's uncomfortable to tell somebody no, and I'm afraid of being uncomfortable. I'm afraid of not being liked. I need other people's approval or whatever it happens to be. And then that's like, okay, here's the deep thing underneath the layers of deep patterns in there. And why do I need this? What is this coming from? I think is part of this thing to then recognize and explore and confront. Number 4. I think this one might be related to some of those others in that we were just talking about in there, but letting go of that which does not serve you or serve us. And this could be a mistake we made, something that we messed up and it's sticking in our mind. This could be anger or resentment that we're holding on to from someone else. This could be fear or worry about some future thing that we're doing or some challenge or problem or task that we have ahead of us. Could be racing thoughts when we're trying to sleep. This could be anything that is running through our mind or in our body that we know in this moment isn't helpful to us. And yet we can't let it go. Be like, okay, great, but there's nothing I can do about all these tasks that I have to do tomorrow. Like right now I need to sleep. And it's almost like the more important that it becomes, then the harder it is to do the thing that we're trying to do. And so I consciously, like, we want to be able to let go of this thing. Maybe it's hurt from a relationship. Maybe it's something someone did that disappointed you or hurt you, or you felt betrayed by, and you can't let it go. And there's a time that it's probably appropriate and healthy to move through it, but then maybe it moves past that time and you're like, I need to be able to move past this. Why can I not move past this here? Why can I not just let this go? And it's like consciously, like we want to let it go and we know we're holding on to something that isn't helpful to us in this moment. But unconsciously, we are holding on to an image of how life, others, or ourselves should be. I should have known better, but I didn't. I shouldn't have done this or that, or this person shouldn't have done that. Like that was wrong to do that, and they should have helped me, or done this, or done that, or not do that, or kept that promise that they broke. And that is the core that's underneath the, I know it's not good for me, but yet I still can't let go of this thing. I still can't, because this is the part of us that is still holding on, because I'm still holding on to my picture or my worldview of how life, myself, or the others should be, instead of what is. And I think it's a mismatch of like our belief of the way it should be versus what the environment around us is telling us it actually is. And the inability to let it go is the inability to let go of that belief of the way it should be. And I see some of the ways in which this impacts us, like it's maybe our relationship with our kids, or a partner, or a coworker, and we miss who they are because of our belief of how they should be. It's a gift that somebody gives us, which is their presence and who they are. And we can't accept it because of what we think. And I'll give you an outside concrete example for a second. If we said, oh, thank you so much for showing up to the podcast today, everybody's going to get $100 for showing up. Everybody would probably be like, wow, that's really awesome. You know, and then we come back later and say, oh, it's actually $10. Like, sorry, like here's a $10 check shows up in the mail, and you'd be disappointed. You'd be like, oh, like this sucks. But if we didn't say anything and just randomly a $10 check came in the mail that said, thank you so much for showing up, here's $10, you'd probably be like, oh, cool, $10, that's awesome, thanks. It's our expectation of what we think things should or shouldn't be that impacts us. And so I would invite you to, if you find yourself in that moment, say, you know, what is the beliefs that I'm holding on to in here? And I think part of it is perfectionism, or like perfectionistic ideals. It's letting the image of the ideal get in the way of what is. It's not seeing our kids for who they are and seeing them as a lesser version of who we want them to be. Keeps us from embracing who they are and enjoying who they are. Or maybe it's a partner or a friendship, or anything there in life. And I would also invite you and challenge you in this moment to like challenge those expectations of what it is. Like if you want to let go, I think most times like, okay, I just got to let this go. I know it's bad, so I'm just going to let it go, and it doesn't work, right? So I'm going to say go underneath. Okay, what am I having a hard time going to go? What is the belief system? What is this ideal that I think should be? I should have performed to XYZ levels and I didn't. Okay, well, that is. Why do I have this belief there? And challenging these beliefs, like where are these expectations that this is the way life should be? This is the way a partner should be. This is the way a friendship should be, or whatever it is in your life. Like, are they really yours? Are these patterns that I want to hold on to? What am I gaining by holding on to these? What am I losing by holding on to these? We're missing out on the opportunity to enjoy the $10 we got because we're still stuck on the $100 that we thought we were going to get or that we should. And I think also partly is this progress doesn't happen in a straight line, right? Like I should be here by now. I should have been at this level or that level and me not being at the next level that I think I should be is actually preventing me from reaching that level. And so it's being able to accept the reality as it is, which sounds like really stupid, right? Like being able to accept reality. Of course I can accept reality. Like it's real, it's the facts of it, and yet it's not. It is the thing that's getting in our way, is our inability to accept what is. And I think there's this story that comes out of like Zen philosophies that I think can be helpful, or that might be helpful in this moment. There's this farmer, right, and his horse runs off, and all his neighbors come by and like, oh, I'm so sorry, that's terrible that you lost your horse, and he's a farmer and he's only got one, and it's this really big deal. And he said, well, maybe. And they're confused. They're like, why is he not sad that his horse runs off? And then the next day, the horse returns and it brought a mate with it. And so now suddenly he's got two, and it returned and it came back to him. They're like, oh, what a blessing it was. And this is so incredible. And you're so fortunate and lucky. And he's like, maybe. And then this new one, his son goes and rides, and because it's exciting, and his son ends up getting kicked off the horse in his exuberance to be here, and the son breaks his leg, and all the villagers come and they're like, oh, such terrible fortune, we're so sorry your son broke his leg, that's really awful. And he says, maybe. And then the next week, the Chinese army comes by and they're recruiting young men for the war effort. And because of his son having a broken leg, he wasn't being able to be recruited. And he says, all the neighbors come and say, what good fortune that you've had. And he says, maybe, right? And I think the lesson in the story here is we don't know. We don't know the things that happen to us, like the things that we think should be or want to, they may or may not be the best things for us, and to be able to accept reality as it is without projecting how we think it should be on top of it. And I think we don't have to hold on so tightly to the image of the life we think we should have. It's okay to embrace the life we do. Okay, so there's our first 4 tips. We've got one more, and this comes out of you might hear it called the 5 hindrances. It comes out of this one in particular is out of the Shaolin Temple in Europe. It's a deep kind of philosophy based on hindrances that have been observed on our path or progress to self-mastery. And it's often told in a story of like someone climbing a mountain trying to get to the mountaintop. And you can think of the mountaintop as your ultimate mentally fit self, right? Or you can think of it as enlightenment or whatever it is. And these are things that hinder us on our path. And so I will share them so then you can recognize them, and I'll share sort of the antidotes to each. And then it is how do we organize our life in such a way that we avoid these hindrances or pitfalls? I also think about it, think of like Odysseus and a lot of like the Greek mythologies, right? Like they're on this great journey, and there's all these things that interrupt this journey along the way, or that pull them from their mission and their path. So the first one is sensual desire, or more, a lot of times it's just referred to as like senses. And you can almost think of these as like positive distractions. So someone climbing a mountain who finds a great view somewhere, or a thing of bushes, and sits down to eat the berries and forgets the path that he's on. I think of these as We have great intentions for how we want to be, but then we pull out our cell phone, or how we're going to use our weekend, and then you pull out your cell phone and 4 hours later, half your day is gone. These are, this might be food or entertainment or any sort of positive distraction that pulls you off of your mission of how you really want to live your life. But I don't think anyone will just say, instead of life, your weekend, I don't think anyone says, oh man, this weekend, I want to just sit there scrolling on my phone the entire weekend, doing nothing. That's not anything that someone sets out to do or achieve. And that is probably how many weekends end up being spent, or many blocks of time end up being spent. So these are things that pull us off of our path, that I almost think of it like the siren's call that sounds pleasant, but ends up having us crash into the rocks. Aversion, dislike, or rejection. So this is somebody climbing up the mountain, and then their legs get tired and it gets a little rainy and gets a little cold, and they're like, oh, this is uncomfortable, this sucks, I don't want to do this, never mind, let's go back down this mountain, or let's go find a nice comfortable shelter again. This was a bit of what we were just describing earlier on the kind of the mythology of the monsters and dragons, and Mike's interjection of challenge, right? Like these are things that we confront in our life that we don't like, that we move away from. And I would actually say almost somewhat the opposite of move towards them. The things that come that are these big things, often the things that we most need to do, that are most powerful in our life for our growth, are the things that we least want to do. And it's because they are the areas of growth that are currently most uncomfortable to us. And this is the story of our dragon here again. We avoid it because we don't like it, because it's uncomfortable. The third hindrance is the lack of energy, not being motivated, a heaviness, depression, avoidance, or a feeling of being trapped. And I think that last part is really important there. Might give us the example of like the mission to take the hill. If you want what's on the hill, you find joy, you find motivation, you find energy. And if you don't care what's on that hill, then you struggle to find it. And if you are in this place or space, I would say there might be a feeling of you being trapped and pursuing something that you don't actually care about, and not knowing that you have choice, or not recognizing, like we talked about in the beginning, the taking complete responsibility for your life, and that you are more doing things that you aren't wanting to do. Worry, anxiety, restlessness. The mind can't settle in the present because it's worried about the future or the past. I think we talked about this term in terms of like wattage before, like you have like 15 watts of energy, and you want all of your energy to be in this present moment, focused on the thing in front of you. And instead, our brain is popping to past things, to future things, to all sorts of other places that are not yet here in the present moment, and are not things that we can do anything about. And so our mind bounces around in there. The feeling is definitely usually anxiety. And looking at the letting go and the state changes, this is one that often comes that is not hopeful for us, and that is difficult to let go of. The last one is doubt, indecisiveness, confusion, or skepticism. I think of this one as commanders in the Middle Ages had these, they're going on a campaign, and all their ships land on a beach, and then they're going to go fight a battle. And when the ships are behind you, you're in this place of like, okay, I'm fighting, well, this isn't going so well, let's go back to the ship. And you're like kind of constantly back and forth in this place of indecision. Or might be a doubt. I don't know if this will be helpful for me. I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can overcome this. I don't know if I can finish this race, take on this task. And that doubt in your mind actually takes up space in your mind and makes it more likely that you are not able to. It's part of the not being able to stay present in the moment. And at the times, kind of like was Mike was sharing, the things that are the most difficult, which is maybe speaking in front of a huge group, like you need to be present the most in those moments. And those are the moments that are the most difficult to be fully present, because your mind is running through maybe doubt, can I do this, or anxiety or worry about here. And I think the antidote to this one is to be able to set it aside, to acknowledge it, right? Like this could be, that could be, and I'm committed to this path and doing it anyways. And our commanders that brought their ships, if they really wanted the outcome of the battle to be there, there's a famous story of, the commander burned all the ships, right? There's no more question, there's no more divisiveness, there's no more in here. It's, move forward with that. And so I might challenge you and ask you of like, okay, if you find yourself in a place or space that you really want to do something, like how do you remove this doubt in your life, and how do you metaphorically burn your ships to commit yourself to something? Okay, so here's coming out of the Shaolin temple out here. Here's their antidote to these. When you see these come up, and really, actually, this is a different way of viewing the emotional spectrum. We could go back and look at that list again, and we could put it side by side with our Western view of emotion, and it would line up quite well. Right? So these are different things that show up that get in the way of people. And so the acronym here is RAIN. And I think this is actually really powerful for a lot of things in life. And I'd say this is a great thing to just hold. And so maybe if you take one thing from this talk, this might be something to hold on to and remember and maybe write down somewhere. So when you find yourself confronting a challenge, find yourself in a state of mind that you are struggling with, you find yourself in one of these obstacles here, to first recognize the state of mind you're in. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling worried. I'm feeling doubtful. That act of recognition actually pulls you out of the situation, interrupts the pattern, starts to change your frame of mind. Instead of being in the thing instead of being angry, it's noticing anger, and it's removing yourself from it just slightly. And the second part, the A of RAIN here, is accept. I think this ties very much in with our letting go and our belief systems about the way the world should be or shouldn't be. Allow it to be the way that it is. It is. And I don't have to mentally fight against it. I can just allow it to be the way that it is. And then the next one is investigate. Why did this come up? Why did this make me angry? What is this anxiety that I'm feeling? Why do I feel I can't say no? Why do I say yes when I don't do here? Why do I feel that I can't overcome this challenge? Start to ask questions, investigate. And then the last step in here is non-identification. This is a very Asian philosophical way to say it. I think simply is, I am not my body. I am not my mind. I am not my emotions. I can feel fear and not be afraid. I can notice anger in myself and not be angry. I am not my mind. I can have thoughts of worthlessness or unworthiness or whatever else it is, and that doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean I am that. That is a thought that has come into my mind. And I am not my emotions. I can feel things in my body. I can have thoughts in my mind. I can feel things in my emotion, and they don't dictate or say what I have to do or not do. I have ultimate freedom and choice for my own actions. I do not have to do or be or believe what it is that is coming to me in this moment. And so it removes me from there, so then I can choose to be the person that I want to be, to take the action that I want to take, to live the life that I want to live. And I think it's a great overall antidote to step out of any place, state that we want to be by recognizing, accepting, investigating, and I would say ultimately letting go, to then choose to live the life we want to be. And I think there's something very deep in that, but that is the underlying heart of what it means to become mentally fit, choosing my own state. So some of the questions as we wrap up in here is, how do you want to live? Our goal on the journey to becoming more mentally fit is about pursuing the things that are meaningful and worth pursuing in life. What are the things in your life that are worth pursuing? And that's it. That's our 5 tips for becoming more mentally fit for the day. I welcome any thoughts or questions that you may have. And I'll end with our quote that we begin with. There are only 2 mistakes one can make on the road to self-mastery: not starting and not going all the way. So if you have not begun, I challenge you to begin. And if you are, you have begun the process, and a lot of you have, I think we're over 20% of who engaged on the one-on-ones. I challenge you to begin this process and then keep going. And it's not a straight path. It is a winding road. And it's powerful and it's beautiful. And it's something that we all find our own path as we go.
That was amazing, Travis. Thank you.
Great.
I thought today's format was great. That was the content was amazing, and the delivery, and that's very powerful stuff. And just knowing that most humans, if not all humans, have these same issues all around the world, and always will. Right? It's a matter of that. What can you do about it? And
yeah, absolutely. I think probably the underlying message today is wherever you are, you're not stuck. And there's simple things that you can do to get yourself on the path that you would like to be on.
Can you speak for a moment about the power? I mean, this is very powerful for anybody that would listen to it. Life-changing. When you go one-on-one, what's better about that, or what's different?
I think these are like listening to a story, and I think one-on-ones is living that story or living that adventure. In the one-on-ones, we have the opportunity to connect on a really powerful and deep level and work directly on the things that are relevant to you in your life. And one-on-ones sometimes are just a few sessions of like, okay, this is what's going on in my life, and here I'm getting some new perspectives, being able to see it in different ways and work on things. And sometimes it's you're on a really intense journey, and it's somebody to walk through that journey with you and kind of guide you through that each step of the way. Here we are addressing the general, the overall big picture topics, where in there we get to work specifically on what is most powerful to a person. And I will probably start bringing in some quotes or testimonials from the impacts. And if anybody has any that they would like to share from the impacts that it's had on you personally, on your family, on people around you, it's really powerful and has life-shaping impacts on people.
The thing I hear the most from people that are like, well, how is that? And what, how do I get there? Their main thing is, well, I don't know what I want to work on. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't want to bother Travis because I'm not sure what I want to talk about, or if I want to talk about anything. So I'm sure, I mean, I get that response a lot with people that I can tell would like to engage you. I'm sure you get that a lot. What's the answer to somebody when they come in and they're like, I don't know why I'm here, Travis?
Right. Great question. That's why you're there. To find out what it is that I hear. Like in that, I might hear a little bit of apathy of life or stuckness in it, and discovering the things underneath the surface in there. It's not a mechanic shop that you have to take your car in when you have a problem that you are looking to fix. It's more like the Q guy from James Bond, where James Bond goes in and says, like, upgrade me to the latest technologies and things. It's more like that, of like, okay, my life is great, let's figure out how we can make it even better, right? And it's more, it can be more like that. There, you don't have to come with any particular things at all. You can it doesn't even matter where you start. Like when we have conversations, it's like you can't help, but you can't not say things like whether you say something or not say something, or the things you talk about and not talk about, all say something about the deep things within you. I think it's really powerful, and that's been some of the experience I've had with some of those of like, I don't really know why I'm here or what I want, and then the clarity that comes out of what it is that they want is part of what they get. And then sometimes it's like, awesome, thank you so much, that was exactly what I needed. And other times it was like, oh my goodness, that is way bigger than I thought, and I want to keep diving into this. Like, let's continue this journey. And both come out of it, and it's really powerful. Yeah, sometimes I get that, like, man, I thought everything was here, and I left, and it's like there's so much more that I can work on and improve within my life. And I think just that alone is a really powerful piece of maybe like a physical therapist, that you're like, well, I can walk and I can move stairs and everything's fine. But then it's like, oh, actually, are you noticing these things in here? And we make these small tweaks and improvements. It's like, oh, wow, I felt so much better than I knew that I could feel.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I think that'll help a lot. And I think the other thing that came up for me as you're saying that is, it's like physical fitness, right? You don't just go do physical fitness, or not everybody just goes and does physical fitness when they've got a problem with a muscle, right? They get into a habit and a routine of it. And I've had similar experiences when I set up my one-on-one session with you. Sometimes I'm very clear at what I want to go talk to you about, and oftentimes I'm not. I just know it's going to be good to sit and think about it for an hour and a half, or however long we spend together. And it's all, both are powerful. And then the clarity that I've gained off of what I do want and what I don't want by working with you has been incredible. So even just that of getting clear on what you want, what you don't want, is very valuable. I think working on mental fitness, I like physical fitness too, and I like business, and I like family. The mental fitness is the, it's a vein of gold, because it so much affects everything else that you do or don't do. If you get your mental fitness and resilience right, I mean, increasing your joy and all of those other positive feelings and things in life, and decreasing the negative ones, that's a gold mine. It is the most productive thing that I have ever worked on, and it's not as hard as I imagined it would be. But yeah, powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. My journey started a little bit more in the physical fitness realm, and I saw the thing that was actually controlling it all underneath was actually the mental fitness. Right? And it's kind of what you're just saying, like, you work on this and it'll impact everything on up.
And great sports people will tell you that too. It's 90% mental, right? Is that the same? It's 90%.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right, great. See everybody next month.